The contractor talked down to the little lady until learning I'm the lead architect. Frank Patterson had been explaining to me why my pretty little ideas about load-bearing walls were wrong for 15 minutes, using a condescending baby voice while his crew snickered behind him. Sweetheart, maybe you should let the men handle the technical stuff, he said, patting my hard hat like I was a child playing dress-up. Why don't you focus on picking out nice colors for the interior? I'd arrived at the construction site in jeans and a flannel shirt, my hair in a ponytail, looking younger than my 38 years. Frank had assumed I was someone's assistant, maybe an interior decorator, certainly not anyone important enough to respect. He'd been holding court with his crew, making increasingly inappropriate comments about how girls these days wanted to play builder. The thing is, honey, Frank continued, pointing at the blueprints I'd spread on the table, these fancy computer drawings don't account for real-world construction. Your little software program doesn't understand how actual buildings work. See this support beam you've drawn? Completely unnecessary. We'll save your client money by skipping it. The beam he wanted to eliminate was essential to preventing the entire third floor from collapsing within 5 years. I'd run the calculations 17 times, accounting for wind shear, seismic activity, and material degradation. But Frank was already pulling out his phone to call who he thought was the real architect. Let me call the actual designer, he said loudly. What's his name again? The one who really drew these plans? That's when the site supervisor, Marcus, arrived with the rest of the development team. Ah, Ms. Richardson, he called out warmly. Gentlemen, let me introduce our lead architect, Victoria Richardson. She designed the entire Meridian complex, including the revolutionary cantilever system that won the International Design Award last year. Frank's phone slipped from his hand, clattering on the concrete. His crew's laughter died instantly. Marcus continued, oblivious to the tension. Victoria personally selected this crew based on your reputation, Frank. She insisted we needed the best for such a technically challenging project. The color drained from Frank's face as he processed that the little lady he'd been lecturing was actually the person who would determine whether his company got paid, whether they'd receive future contracts, and whether his construction license remained valid. I designed 7 of the city's most prominent buildings, held patents on 3 engineering innovations, and my signature was required on every single payment authorization. The unnecessary beam you wanted to eliminate, I said calmly, picking up the blueprints, is calculated to handle the harmonic resonance from the highway nearby. Without it, the building will develop stress fractures within 18 months. Your cost-cutting measure would have triggered a catastrophic failure and multiple lawsuits. Frank's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. His crew had backed away, suddenly very interested in their boots. The second-in-command, Roberto, actually looked impressed, having argued for following the plans exactly as written. Furthermore, I continued, pulling out my tablet, I've been recording our entire conversation, including your suggestion to ignore the approved blueprints and your various comments about women in construction. Shall we discuss this with the licensing board, or would you prefer to follow the plans precisely as designed? The transformation was immediate. Frank became excessively professional, addressing me as Miss Richardson in every sentence, following every specification to the letter. His crew, freed from his toxic influence, actually proved quite competent. Roberto quietly apologized, admitting they'd always known Frank's attitudes were wrong, but hadn't felt empowered to speak up. The project proceeded flawlessly after that, though Frank's discomfort was palpable every time I arrived for inspections. He'd overcorrect, practically bowing when I entered, his previous swagger replaced with nervous deference. His crew, however, began asking genuine questions about the engineering, finally able to learn from someone who respected their intelligence regardless of gender. 6 weeks into construction, Frank made his fatal error. Thinking I wasn't on site, he reverted to his old behavior with a female safety inspector, calling her sweetheart and dismissing her concerns about improper scaffolding. I watched the entire exchange from the construction trailer's window, then immediately called Marcus to terminate Frank's contract. The scaffolding issue could have killed workers, and his inability to respect expertise regardless of its source made him a liability. Roberto's company took over the project, promoting several female engineers who'd been overlooked. The building was completed ahead of schedule, under budget, and became a case study in architectural innovation. Frank's company folded within a year after word spread about why he'd lost the Meridian contract. At the building's opening gala, Roberto introduced me to his daughter, who'd just been accepted to architectural school. She saw what you did to Frank, he said proudly. Decided that day she wouldn't let anyone tell her what she couldn't build. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, but ensuring the next generation won't face the same condescension disguised as expertise.